welcome to a special podcast episode where we have the privilege of hosting Mr. Peter, a seasoned leader in the educational industry with over 25 years of experience. Currently, he serves as the head of Oberoi International School and has an extensive background in educational leadership, including roles in school improvement, governance, and international accreditation.
Today, Mr. Peter joins us to share insights and experiences from his illustrious career. We're incredibly grateful for the opportunity to learn from his vast expertise. Thank you, Mr. Peter, for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
So, what was your journey like to becoming a principal, and what inspired you to pursue this journey?
That's an interesting question. First of all, the first challenge was to become a teacher.
Okay.
And I was one of those kids at school that hated school and didn't find it to be a particularly happy place. I was bullied a lot at school.
Okay.
And so when I was 16, I thought I'm going to get out of the school environment as quickly as possible. And I went into the catering industry and worked long hours, preparing food during the daytime and then working as a waiter in the evenings, 7 days a week. Did that for about 5 months and realized that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing that. Long days. And so, much to my parents' pleasure, I went back to school, did my A-levels, had the Abbey diploma, went on to university, found a passion at university doing something that I really enjoyed doing, which led me into teaching, and the rest kind of became history. I found myself working in a school that I enjoyed being in. I was successful in that environment, got promoted, and one thing just leads to the next.
So you mentioned something about bullying, and I'm sure in every school there is some kid who gets bullied. So would you have any advice for them, and how you got over the fear of getting bullied?
I think it's interesting what causes people to be bullied. So I was in an all-boys school, and I was small for my age. The people who were the bullies were often folks who were not the brightest of individuals. And one of the things that I learned to do as kind of a survival technique was to use wit and humour as a way to kind of avoid being trapped by bullies in situations that were going to be uncomfortable. And sarcasm to some extent.
Yeah. You just try to avoid it as much as you can. You don't have to take it too personally.
You don't take it personally, and certainly don't let people see that you're taking it personally, because that kind of feeds that cycle.
That's
Yeah.
So we discovered that in the early stages of your career, you were a design teacher, which is quite fascinating actually. We were really surprised. We never knew about this. Could you share what inspired you to pursue teaching in design?
So I did a degree in industrial design, so that was an area of fascination. And qualifying to teach in that subject was a natural progression. I come from a family of teachers. And design in the 1970s was really an exciting subject to be working in. It was the time when we were beginning to look at things like electronics, robotics, structures, mechanisms, all of those kinds of combinations of science, maths and technology, and it was a sweet spot that brought subjects together that I was interested in. And the government was very keen to develop the subject area. It was an important part of the curriculum. And so stars aligned, and I found myself in a happy place.
So, do you have any fond memories of particular projects that you enjoyed a lot?
I worked with lots of kids in quite poor areas. In my last years in the north of England, I had a class of students about your age, 16-year-olds. They would be doing their MYP final project. 20 kids in a class, all doing completely different projects. And I had one boy who was designing a lightweight tent. He was really interested in camping and hiking. So he was doing work with composite materials and fabrics and designing
Yeah.
and building a tent structure that was incredibly light and easy for him to carry. At the same time, I've got a girl in the class who's designing an electronic system that will enable it to sense temperature and open and close a greenhouse roof
Okay.
space based on climatic conditions. And that might not sound like a super complicated project, but when you look at all of the combination of sensing and motion that you're having to control, it was a really
Right.
sophisticated bit of electronics. And
So-
at the same time, there will be a student who's designing clothing. So I had a mix of 20 kids who were all
Yeah.
doing really exciting projects in different areas of technology, from high-end electronics to people working on sewing machines and designing clothing.
So I think the FRC club was pretty similar to
Yeah.
electronics and everything. so-
FRC Club was like what my classrooms used to look like. So we were building robots from discrete components back in the early 1980s, and then coding them, programming them to do fundamental rudimentary tasks. Interesting time. And at that time I went back to university part-time, so I was teaching, and then the evenings I went to university and did my second degree, which was in more advanced
Oh, you have a dual
technologies.
degree?
So I have 3 or 4. I've been back to university 3 or
Oh,
4
wow.
times
Oh,
whilst
wow.
working.
So how long did that take you in
to
university?
So my first degree was 3 years, and then I started work, and then I did another degree course over 18 months, and then had a couple of years teaching, then did another degree course. So I've done that about 4 or 5 times in my career.
So for those who believe like doing multiple degrees is quite cumbersome, could you like share your motivation behind this? Like what motivated you?
What
to do
drove you
4
towards
degrees?
getting 4 degrees?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated in new learning.
Mm.
Interested to kind of expand my understanding of areas that I was curious about.
Mm.
And I think, in terms of being professionally successful, there is an expectation that you are showing,
You
that
have
you are
to, yes.
engaging
Okay.
in advanced learning.
So we were curious what a typical day would look like for you, for the head of the school.
Typical day, I get up at about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I walk for about an hour in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go home, shower, have breakfast. I'm in school for about 6:15. I stay in school till about 6 in the evening, doing my kind of day work. Go home, eat my evening meal, maybe do a couple of hours work in the evening.
So do you not get tired?
Inspiring.
What keeps you driven throughout the whole day?
I enjoy what I'm doing. I mean, I think if you find joy in the work that you're doing, the
Then you-
energy that's required to enable you to sustain that is something that comes easily. And when, if you've been in my office, you've seen the poster that
Yeah,
sits
yeah,
behind
yeah.
my desk. What's the message there? What's the message on that poster? Find things in life that you enjoy doing. Don't spend your time doing something you don't like doing.
That's a motivational thing. We'll clip that and put it. Okay.
So what prompted you to come to India? Like why did you choose to come to this
I
particular
knew,
place?
having spent 41 years working in Europe, in 3 different countries in Europe, that I absolutely wanted to experience a very different world. And the winter holiday before the job advert came up for Oberoi International School, we travelled to India and spent 3 weeks travelling through the country. We landed in Kerala, Kochi, spent a few days in Kerala, and then wound our way up, finishing in Delhi. So we did Hyderabad, we did Rajasthan,
Full
we did
tour,
road
yeah.
tours, full tour, ended
Yeah.
up in Delhi, and had an absolutely fantastic experience.
Which place fascinated you the most?
They were all interesting. I mean, we had great tour guides, lots of history that we were kind of absorbing. Any opportunity that we had to get out and walk the streets, be in the
You take it,
markets, just
Yeah.
soak up the kind of experience of being on the ground. Wonderful. And about 6 weeks after that, I was at a conference in Warsaw, met
Mm.
somebody who said, you know, there's a job coming up in India over international school. You know, are you interested? And it was like, wow, that is
Perfect.
just what I'm looking
So it was like he was meant to
So
be.
it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And I
having
haven't regretted a minute of being here. If I could have chosen not to have come in the midst of COVID, that would have been great. But you know, sometimes you can't.
that's okay. Everything's meant to be in
It's
some.
meant
Yeah.
to be. Yeah.
So having spent so much time in the country, what are the highlights of your stay over here? Like food items, places, culture. What's your favorite?
What do you enjoy the most?
Let's talk about food. What do you like to eat the most over here?
Okay, so I like to cook,
Okay.
and there's one of my favorite dishes is a prawn moili.
Okay.
So it's rice and prawns and spices
Okay.
and coconut sauce.
Okay,
so
coconut.
you know that's a so
Sounds
the
delicious.
Goa kind of
Mm.
kind of recipes that I am
Seafood,
attracted to. Seafood for
okay.
definite. So I like to cook.
Have you had vada pav and samosa
all
pav
of
and all
those?
that? you
Sure,
know?
sure.
These are typical Mumbai ka
Yeah.
dishes, you know,
Yeah.
pav bhaji, vada pav.
So one of my favorite places in downtown Mumbai is a Parsi
Parsi Dairy,
cafe that
Parsi
I go
Dairy, yeah.
for keema pav and an Irani coffee in
Wow.
the morning. That's
Okay.
a Irani teas favorites.
In that way, Mumbai has a lot of nice dishes.
Wonderful.
A lot of
Yeah.
them.
Lots of them. Yeah. Spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
So, reflecting overall on your career, what project or role do you feel had the most significant impact on your development as a professional?
I think my first headship, my first
Okay.
head of school job, which was in Germany. It was a very complex period of time. The Iron Curtain had come down, so East Germany had been kind of brought back into Germany.
Yeah.
I'd spent a few years working for the German government in their development ministry, teaching adults how to, from the former East Germany who'd lost their jobs because of the reunification, training them to go and work in developing world settings. And from that, I got headhunted in to be one of the founding leaders of what was going to become the Bonn International School. At
Okay.
the time, there were 4 schools in the city, so we went through a process of doing a merger and bringing 4 organizations together. So you can imagine taking
Yeah.
4 schools and taking the staff from 4
Yeah.
schools and the
Yeah.
kids and kind of throwing them all into one melting pot and saying, you know, this is your new school environment.
So were they able to merge together easily, or was it hard?
So merging groups of people together like that when they come from their own kind of long-term history is challenging.
It is, yeah.
At the same time that we were doing this, we were preparing for the school becoming much smaller because 2 years after the school opened, the government moved the seat of government from Bonn to Berlin. So
Okay.
all of the diplomatic community packed up in July of 1999 and just moved. And so we lost half of our kids for the school overnight, which meant we had to lose half of the teachers.
Oh
and,
no.
and
So a lot of changes had to
so
take
lots
place.
of changes happening in a relatively short period of time.
Wow.
But then what I had the opportunity to do was to connect with a huge school construction project.
Okay.
And so I spent time fundraising, fundraised 20 million euros to build a brand new school, knock down the school that we were in.
So
moved
how long did it take you to fundraise
to-
20 million?
It took me about 3 years to do the fundraising. We raised the money.
Okay.
We worked with really exciting architects. We had to move everybody out of the school that we were in so that we could bulldoze that and then put a brand new school there. And so having raised the money, we then spent 18 months building the school on site every day, making sure that we met the deadlines for being finished.
18 months is a good time actually. In India, it takes like 4-5 years to build something, you know, just in
So,
bits and
yeah,
pieces.
We did a complex project and built a really innovative school building. And if you Google it, Google Bonn International School, you'll see it's a school that's full of kind of wavy shapes What we wanted to do was to build a school that didn't look like a school, that it looked like
In a different way.
Wow.
a very different kind of space, and I think we achieved that.
And in stressful times, do you have like a personal philosophy that you use?
Any motto?
Yeah.
Stress you're always going to have. I mean, there's
Okay.
good stress and there's bad stress, and
Yeah.
I think if you can, if you can surf that good stress wave well, I think that can be a creative place to be. When the stress becomes too much, I mean, one of the questions that you had,
Yeah.
what do you do to chill out? What do you do to relax? And I've always found mountains to be my happy
Okay,
place.
okay.
Mountains and lawn mowing.
Okay.
So cutting grass is a happy place
Satisfying.
for me.
Yeah.
Very, very meditative. You went backwards and forwards, and it's a time when you can think about solving complex problems. Walking alone in the mountains is a time that I replenish. I de-stress. I think about how I'm going to do the things that are complicated and that are making me think.
So, one quick question. I mean, the viewers watching, all of them don't know yet if what your new role is. So, as we'd like to congratulate you on your promotion to Oberoi International School, can you let us know about what your new role is?
So that's a great question. I wish I had a really clear answer to give you, but I think to some extent it's going to be a role that grows as we
Okay.
work together.
Okay.
So what I know the board are keen to do is they are keen for me to bring any experience that I've had from being a head of school for nearly 30 years to support the two heads of school, very capable heads of school who we've got, one at OGC, one at JVLR, and I will work closely with them to
manage, like,
see
both
how
the
we
schools.
kind of align the two schools closely together. That's one piece of work. I'll be working with the non-teaching teams to look at systems and processes
Okay.
to see how we streamline those to make them efficient and effective across two buildings for a team of people who go backwards and forwards between the two schools. I'll be doing outreach work, so working in the greater Mumbai area and across India, promoting the brand, talking about the work that we do here at the Oberoi International School. I think that's an important part of letting people know the good work that's going on here.
Right.
And maybe doing some training, maybe teaching our teachers, our middle leaders, some of the things that I've learned along the way about how to organize and lead teams, how to impact change.
Okay.
So we just one last quick question in this segment. Looking back, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
That's a tough one. What do I think I would like to have known? Maybe if somebody had said to me, don't worry too much about what's going to happen, because it will happen.
Okay.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Okay.
Yeah. What will be will be.
Yeah. What's meant to be is meant to be.
What's meant to be is meant to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you've delved a little bit into your professional journey and experiences, let's step outside the classroom and we'll go into some questions beyond school and beyond your role.
So here, if you think anything is too personal, please feel free to say skip.
Sure.
So who inspires you the most? Who is like your role model?
I read a lot about leadership of organizations like ours, and one person who would come to mind would be a guy called Michael Fulham. He's an educational professor in Canada, and he writes wisely about leading organizations through periods of change. John Cotter, from a business perspective, writes about leading people through change. I would say they're two inspiring people that I would turn to when I'm looking for cool ideas.
Okay, so is there a book or movie that significantly influenced your perspective on life? Maybe something that you saw or read and you felt like...
Jacob Branovsky wrote a book called The Ascent of Man.
Okay.
Jacob Branovsky. It's one of my favorite books. And it's about philosophy, it's about science, it's about It's about the cosmos. It's about how all the pieces fit together.
So how it all happened.
Yeah, and how it continues to happen.
Okay. So would you say like you like non-fiction books better or fiction books?
Do you read fiction?
It depends. Depends what if I'm reading to kind of feed the mind, then
Okay.
that's one genre. If I'm reading for relaxation, then I like
Fiction.
the thriller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any favorite travel destination, and why is it special to you, if you do have any?
So favorite travel destinations are always mountains.
Okay.
Anywhere
Okay.
where there are mountains that I can go and explore, that would be a favorite destination.
So has there ever been like a highlight, like your favorite mountain?
I have wonderful experiences from times mountaineering, often with students in the
Oh,
UK,
okay.
in the Lake District. So when I was a young teacher, I was taking kids away camping and hiking,
Wow,
rock
okay.
climbing and kayaking and doing all of that kind of stuff. That would be what I spent my weekends doing.
So you're like
up
an
into the Lake
adventure lover.
District. So I'm absolutely an adventure lover. Maybe a bit less adventurous now than I was when I was in my 20s, but point me towards a mountain and I'll be a happy person.
So you have lived and worked in multiple countries. How has each place shaped your personal life and hobbies? So like what have you taken
If you
from
can-
each place?
If you can give a few, not too many, just a few.
So hobbies have always been around getting out into nature.
Okay.
When I lived in Germany, my house was backing onto an area of a huge area of kind of open landscape that you could
Okay.
walk and wander in. When my kids were growing up, that was a great place to go and spend our weekends. So out in the countryside, when I moved to Austria, we were living in Vienna. Vienna is a beautiful city of culture and arts. And so lots of opportunity there to go to the opera, to go to theatre, to go to galleries.
Okay.
You take the best that you can find in the places that you're in.
Okay. So nowadays people struggle a lot with prioritizing their tasks, and I'm sure you've come up this long way because you know how to prioritize your task and manage your time well. So what role does family play in your life, and how do you prioritize spending time with loved ones?
Spending time with loved ones becomes more challenging as they reach your age because they go off to university, and when they come back from university, when they finish university, there's no guarantee that they're going to come
Come
to
back.
the place that
Yeah.
you're in.
That's true.
I have 3 kids. One of them is in Stockholm, Sweden.
Okay.
One is in Munich, and one is in Bangkok, Thailand.
Oh my.
So family
Different places, yeah.
Family are in very different places.
So I'm sure you miss them. And
Absolutely. So prioritizing time becomes, those 1 or 2 precious weeks in the year where we all come to the same place,
that must be very special then.
which is special time. Absolutely. And now as a granddad, I have a greater sense of needing to be a presence in my grandchildren's lives.
So moving on to some physical exercise. What physical exercise do you enjoy the most? And do you does it play an important role in your life right now?
Are you a sporty person or gym all the time? And
I hate gyms. I'm not a
Yeah,
gym
that's
kind of
true.
person. I get bored in gyms.
Okay.
I get up in the morning and I walk around the neighborhood. So walking is really important. Mobility is really important.
Nature.
When I go home, I'll get out into the mountains. I have a large garden, so I'll spend a lot of time gardening. That's a good place to kind
Okay.
of keep fit. In my younger days, I was sporty. I played lacrosse, which is a game that you probably are not
not
familiar
heard of,
with.
but yeah.
It's like ice hockey
Okay.
on grass.
Okay.
And you throw a ball that's got lead in the middle and rubber on the outside. It's a very fast game.
Oh wow.
And you're allowed to hit each other with the sticks that you catch
Oh,
and
no.
throw the ball
Okay.
with. So look up lacrosse. It's a fun, fast game. I played hockey, field hockey. Was never really into football. Played squash.
Okay.
Played badminton. Played competitive squash.
Okay.
Yeah. they would be
Cricket, tennis.
Cricket, I played cricket,
Okay.
yeah. Played tennis, played badminton. I lived when I was a kid right next door to a cricket pitch.
Oh,
so
okay.
playing cricket was easy.
Do you watch cricket by any chance?
So
Tennis,
I-
cricket.
when I get the chance, I watch.
Mhm.
We have a cricket team here at the
We
school.
do, yes.
we have a staff cricket team. So
Yeah.
we play, you know, we turn out and we play against other people who are interested in
Yeah.
coming and knocking the ball
I
around.
hope we get to play together sometime next
we,
year.
we
then.
should do that. We should do that. Staff versus student game would be fun.
Okay. If you find this a little personal, you can say skip. But can you share a personal goal you're working on towards right now?
Personal goal.
Yeah.
Something you're working towards right now.
I would say big personal goal is planning for retirement.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, I've been super busy in my
Mhm.
professional life, and I'm not sure how, when you stop, you know, what I will find myself doing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll go back to design and building and making things.
Maybe somewhere in the mountains.
So that was like
we
your
have
true
we have a
passion.
home in the mountains, we have a
Mhm.
farmhouse in the mountains, and I have a workshop planned in my head that I'm going to
Wow.
build.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for sharing those personal insights. Now let's shift gears and have some fun with some good fun questions. So listen.
coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Both. Tea first. Tea is my
Okay.
first drink in the morning, and I like it with milk. I like black tea
Okay.
with milk, and then coffee. I like to drink, you know, in Italy, you drink cappuccino in the morning with your
Okay.
cornetto, with your like croissant, and then after that it's espresso. So it's a very small cup, very strong coffee, no milk.
And masala chai, do you like that?
Masala chai sometimes. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, but
Okay.
yeah, I will drink masala chai.
Okay.
I like the Irani chai that you get in the Parsi restaurants, Parsi cafes. Yeah.
So just 1 second, we have to stop the camera for just 2 minutes
worries.
while we see this.
No worries. We
How
can
do you
chit chat.
find If you could swap places with a student in our school for a day, what would it be? And what are you the most excited to do?
If I could swap a place with a student,
Yeah.
I read
I
this
think if I
question.
could swap with a student, I would go into a class that were doing robotics,
Okay.
and I would
Design maybe,
connect
DT.
with, yeah, designing somewhere.
Okay.
Maybe the
So that's
the
like your true
FRC,
passion.
Go
Yeah.
back in there,
Mhm.
and, you know, build stuff.
So you really like that a lot.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, okay.
If I had my dream job when I retire
Hmm.
would be to become the school technician or
Okay.
the school caretaker.
Oh,
You know,
so then
go
you can
around and
actually
fix
play
things.
around. Yeah.
Be around kids
Fair
and
enough.
fixing stuff, and that would be great.
Okay.
And also, we remember you wrote a book about design.
I did
Yeah.
many,
Oh,
many
you did?
years ago.
Okay.
many years ago.
What was it about? Like.
It was at a time when the school system was trying to help kids. So imagine you were lined up to get a 6 in your IB
Yeah.
course,
Mhm.
and you really wanted to get a 7. What do you have to do to
Get
close
up
that
there.
gap?
Okay. Yeah.
And so there was a series of books that were commissioned about like a grade booster book.
Okay.
How do you optimize your performance?
I think I need that right
Yeah.
now. I really do. Okay. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I think somebody like Albert Einstein,
Mm-hmm.
Leonardo da Vinci,
Okay.
because they're just fascinating people. I'd love to be able to talk to them about how their thinking processes work.
Wow.
Leonardo da Vinci, fascinating
Yeah.
man.
He was a master.
Fascinating. Yeah.
It's crazy how they do what they do.
Yeah.
So, if you had any superpower, what would you choose to have and why?
What would my superpower be?
I think as kids we've got this figured out a lot.
Yeah. If I had a real superpower, it would be able to help people
Mm-hmm.
who are sick get well.
Okay.
Okay. That's actually good because usually
Yeah.
people pick flying and being
Something
invisible
that's
and all
for
of that.
themselves.
For themselves. But it's great how you thought about
Yeah.
other people, you know. So what's your favorite song? And before you talk about the song, what's your favorite genre about song? Like which songs do you like to listen?
So Van Morrison is one of my favorite musicians.
Okay.
You know, I love that whole genre of music. When my kids were young, we used to go on road trips and we would put music on the stereo in the
Yeah.
car.
Sounds
We'd
like a
all
vibe.
sing loudly as we drove long distances
Wow.
to go on holiday. And Van Morrison was always a favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bollywood, anything? Do you like Punjabi
So
songs?
I would say that's a genre that I am not super well informed about.
Okay.
Having said that, I got invited to a typical Mumbai Bollywood party last
Uh-huh.
night, so I was down in the city
Mm-hmm.
with stars from the Bollywood industry
Oh, wow, okay.
performing live in a party environment. It was a cool evening. Yeah.
Who's your favorite Bollywood star, if you have any? You know, Shah Rukh Khan or Ranveer Singh, Ranveer Kapoor.
So I had the good fortune to meet Farhan Akhtar
Oh,
last
okay.
year.
Wow.
Great,
Yeah.
you know,
He's a great guy.
great
Yeah.
guy.
And he's very
big heart,
multi-talented as
very
well. you know.
very modest.
Yeah.
But you know, that having met him, it was an opportunity to go and look at some of his films. And,
Mm.
yeah.
So not only films, but he's into singing as well. He's directed
Yeah.
films,
Yeah.
acted in films,
Yeah,
and
very
so.
talented
He's done it
man.
all.
So
very
very
talented.
multi-talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question in the segment, and then we'll move on to the last
Okay.
one.
What movie would you watch over and over again without ever getting tired?
That's funny. As a kid, we watched The Sound of Music. I don't
Okay.
know if you know The
It's a
Sound of
classic,
Music.
yeah.
It's a classic,
Mhm.
schmaltzy,
Mhm.
kind of wartime drama playing out in Austria.
Yeah.
Having lived in Austria and being
Mhm.
close to the area where that played out, The Sound of Music is probably
You could
one
connect
that
to
I
it
would
better,
go back
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
It's just
Mhm.
easy watching.
Sound of Music. I'll just. Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. Now let's just tackle some more thought-provoking topics, and we're gonna like delve into a few debatable questions that are often hotly debated in the student world and like the world of work.
So what do you think about the role of AI in the classroom? I mean, I'm sure you've caught a lot of people while you're walking, you know, just chat GPTing their English essay and everything like that. So what would you think about AI?
Do you think it does more harm than help?
So, AI is here to stay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, we were in a presentation recently with somebody who absolutely understands the power of AI. And one of the messages that we were left with was, you know, if you're not using AI to make big decisions,
Mhm.
not to make the decision for you, but to inform big decisions, you're missing out big style.
Mhm.
I wrote a piece for the student magazine a couple of weeks ago about, you know, changes in technology basically. When I started teaching back in 1979, I taught mathematics as one of the subjects that I had,
Mhm.
and we used slide rules. And I was showing
Okay.
somebody from Texas Instruments recently, you know, what a slide rule looked like.
Okay.
And you know, he comes from a calculator company.
What is a slide rule?
So a slide rule is literally like a ruler with bits inside it that slide that you do all your calculations with.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Oh my
Okay.
god. Yeah.
So you should Google it. Slide rules.
Slide rules.
So you know, I go back to the example of slide rules because when I was teaching mathematics using slide rules in the early 80s, pocket calculators or calculators started to be something that were available. And you know, an early calculator was about that size.
Oh yeah. Wow.
It was big.
Mhm.
And only kids who had an awful lot of money could afford to buy them. And parents and teachers at the time were super anxious.
Hmm.
You know, if we give students this technology, they'll become totally stupid in terms of mathematics.
Yeah,
They won't
yeah,
be
yeah.
able to-
For
they won't be
sure.
able to do anything.
Yeah.
Even right now, it's always preferred to do manual work instead of
Right.
using a.
But you look now and you go into maths classrooms and you see the complex maths problems that you're solving using graphing
GDCs,
calculators.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'd never have been able to do
I'm
that
sure.
level of
Right.
complex maths in school.
Mhm.
I think it
40,
just
50 years
elevates you
ago.
to a higher level instead
And
of.
I think that's the message. You can't hide the technology. Technology advances us.
Hmm.
What we have to do is to learn to use it wisely.
Okay.
And so I think AI is here, it's here to stay. It's a really powerful resource. And we have to look at, as a school, at what are we actually trying to do?
Hmm.
Are we
Right.
trying to help people find really good ways of quickly solving complex issues?
Yeah.
Or are we just trying to test their ability to
Yeah.
do other things?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the debate. You know,
That's more.
the
It's more
debate.
about learning,
Yeah.
from the AI instead of
And,
just.
and you know, my sense with AI is the output that you get from an
Yeah.
AI question is only as good as the questions you ask.
Right.
That's true.
And so you really have
That's
to
true.
you have to have an understanding
You have
of
to have
what
a
it is
knack
that
for
you're
the
trying
question.
to
Yeah.
what you're trying to understand. It's like the calculator.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have a good understanding of the formulas that you're applying,
Mm.
a graphic calculator,
It won't give it to
it's
you.
no use to you.
Yep.
It's just a tool.
It's just a tool. So
And
that's
you,
why,
you know,
yeah.
you have to know how to use the tool. And
I think it
AI
goes-
is
yeah.
very simple.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to that quote, like people, AI won't replace jobs, but those who know how to use AI will replace those who don't.
Yeah.
That's why there are a lot of
Yeah.
people who are teaching how to frame the
Yeah.
questions that you can put in the AI so that you get the maximum
Prompt
output.
engineering.
That's the skill.
That's the
Yeah.
actual skill.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
And knowing when you've got an answer,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's actually a useful answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That requires
It's a
some
skill.
understanding.
It's a
There's
skill.
a lot of that's where the skill is.
Yep.
The critical thinking to know. So you know, it's provided me with some information.
Mhm.
How good is that information?
So another hot topic, if you could change anything about the education system, what would it be?
I think, and I have thought this for about 6 years, that
Mhm.
schools need to change.
Okay.
Mm.
I think it is crazy that your birth date determines the,
Your grade,
spa-
yeah.
Oh,
the
that
pace at which you
Makes
learn.
so much
Yeah.
sense. Yep. Definitely.
I think the combination of technology, AI,
Mm-hmm.
and really good assessment and really good curriculum
Okay.
will lead us to a place where the way you interact with a school will change.
Okay.
You'll spend some time in regular classrooms being taught cool things by wonderful people and being in a social space.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'll also spend some time in your week, maybe not in the building,
Okay.
Outside doing
maybe
practical
outside,
work. Yeah.
maybe doing practical work,
Mhm.
maybe applying things that you've learned, maybe
Some personal
deep diving
projects.
into personal
Yeah.
work. You know, a much more personalized learning
Okay.
agenda, and the AI will inform.
Yeah. I think
will
that can
tell
really
you-
facilitate this.
Yeah, I think that is.
So
coming.
you're a believer in practical work instead of theoretical. You know, doing
Both,
tests
yeah.
completely all the
So
time.
both are important.
Both. I think you need
Okay.
both.
Okay.
You need to understand the theory
Hmm.
to be able to do the practical work.
So
But
do
you learn the theory,
yeah.
Mm.
I think, much more easily when
Hmm.
you learn it through practical
Practical work.
application.
Yeah.
So in during that thing, like what you said about practical work, do you think schools today are preparing students for the real world? Like outside, it's way more than doing and writing assessments, right? It's actually working with people. So do you think schools are preparing us in that way?
I think you are blessed that you are in a school like Oberoi International School. I think
Yeah.
if you went out of here and didn't go very far and went into schools in the neighborhood, you would find a very different kind of learning experience. So, do I think that there is scope for schools to continue to change? Absolutely.
Hmm.
But can you have a sense of confidence that you're in a good place for learning?
Hmm.
I absolutely believe so. And that's not because we are focused on the kinds of things that we were focused on
Mhm.
20, 30, 40 years ago. You're in a program that's challenging you to think critically. You're in a program that's challenging you to develop a whole variety of skills and dispositions that are going to serve you well for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
You are learning, you're gaining knowledge, but you're gaining knowledge so that you can apply it to
Apply it,
unfamiliar
yep. Yeah.
contexts and solve, real problems. You are thinking about the world as a global village.
Hmm. That's
You
true.
know, your horizon isn't Goragao.
Hmm.
Your horizon is, a
The
much
world,
bigger
yeah.
perspective on the world, and you are building relationships amongst
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
that you will use through your professional lives to enable you to come back together and to do powerful things.
Hmm.
We're really grateful for you to like facilitate all this.
Yeah. Because
This couldn't have ever happened.
yeah,
without
not
good
only
leadership.
the academics but the facilities that we have as well.
Yeah.
And the way you've changed the school is really inspiring. Like before this, we never had a head of school serving us food. That makes us feel great as well. The way you give us food. So I mean, I've had my parents a lot of time. They've said that look at how down to earth he is. He's helping with the traffic and everything. So that's that's
It
hats
really
off to you.
inspired
So
us, yeah.
it's really inspiring.
I think, there is a message that we try to communicate there that none of us are more important than anybody else.
Okay.
Yep.
We do different roles, we have different functions,
Mm.
but everybody who is in this building is important. And if those people who work in this building weren't here, something wouldn't function.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. Everyone has a role to play.
Everyone has a role to play, and we are. I firmly believe we are equally important in that respect.
Okay, so we have last two questions because we're running out of time.
Okay.
And so, Jason,
So, do you believe that college education today is as valuable as it was 20 years ago? So what is
I-
your stance on college education?
The notion of value is something we would have to more closely define.
Okay.
So I think leaving home and going and living in a new space on your own and having to look after yourself is
Okay.
a super important experience.
Mm.
I really do.
Yeah.
And the things you will learn about being independent
Right.
are important lessons in life. Do I believe that going to a university at huge expense for maybe 30 weeks in a year is a wise way of working in the 21st century? No.
Okay.
I think rather than spend 3 or 4 years at university, you could probably do that course in 2 years.
Okay.
That's
I
true.
think
Right.
if you combine that with internship and actually getting out of the college environment and
Okay.
doing practical application of the things you're learning, that would probably be more beneficial. So I think it's become such a huge cost factor
Yeah.
that it's no longer meritocratic.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not accessible to everybody.
That
if
is,
you're-
yes.
If you don't have access to the funds, or you're not willing to take on the huge long-term debt
Yeah.
of student loan,
Mm.
then I wonder whether it's as fair a system as it could be.
So you believe like the main value is like leaving home and
You know
Like
what you
being
learn, the
exposed,
practical
yeah.
things that you learn in life. Is that what you?
I think you will learn those. I think you will also learn great lessons in university. You're going to go
Okay.
into places where people will really,
Struggle to get to, yeah.
push your
Yeah.
your thinking processes. That
Okay.
is of great value. You
Okay.
will meet people with very different perspectives on the world. That's of great value.
okay.
So I don't want to take away from the wonderful learning opportunity, but I think it could be maybe a bit more efficient. I think technology could make some of it more accessible.
Okay.
I think that, I worked in Germany for 16 years,
Oh.
and the German education system starts from a very different perspective. If you
Okay.
get your diploma, you
Mm.
can study at any university within the country,
Mm.
whatever you want,
Yeah.
and it costs you $500 a semester.
That's it.
That's it. But because loads of people reach that level, many of them go and start courses that they're not really suited to, that are more demanding than they're able to cope with,
Yeah.
and you get very, very large numbers of people trying to get into lecture theatres, which
Yeah.
means if you can't get in, you could be spending years trying to get your first degree completed.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
That's
means
true.
it's not unusual for you to be 25 and you still haven't done your bachelor's degree,
Oh no.
because you're waiting to get into
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I think, those kinds of things, technology could make that way more accessible.
Much
Yeah.
more. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think technology is making things accessible to people. With the courses coming up on sites like Udemy and all of that, Coursera,
Yeah.
I think courses are becoming much more accessible at a very low cost
Yeah.
for people who can't afford to go to UK or US to
You
study.
can go to Stanford now and do all of their courses.
Yeah.
All of their courses.
Yeah.
The only thing you can't do is sit the exam.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got access to all the learning.
all everything. Yeah. I mean, actually the learning is much more valuable than
Yeah.
the
The
text that
exam,
you
yeah.
get.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
One.
I think that's a lesson also that we overinflate
Okay.
the location that you get the qualification from. By the time you have finished university and spent 5 years in your first job, few people will be interested in where you did your degree. They'll
Yeah,
be much more
yeah.
interested in what have you done
What have you
in that 5
accomplished?
years.
Yeah.
What have you accomplished?
That's true. Yes. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. So one last question, and I think this will be very helpful for all the students. So in the age of information, where we're all busy learning, is memorization still a valuable skill in education, or should we focus more on problem solving and critical thinking? Because before EOIs, everyone's just glued to their it's called ratta in our thing, which is just memorization completely.
Yeah.
So would you suggest that, or would you suggest something else?
The ability to learn things is valuable. Memorization without learning is a waste of time.
Definitely.
So my education, I give you an example. You know, I did well at school. So as a 16-year-old, I did really well. I had a great academic profile. I studied subjects like chemistry and French. I couldn't
Okay.
tell you anything about chemistry.
Everyone can relate.
I
on this
got
one.
great grades in French, top grades.
Mhm.
I couldn't carry out a simple conversation with you in French because I memorized.
Okay.
I learned for the test,
Hmm.
and a week after I'd finished the test,
You
all of those memories
I can
were
relate. Yep.
becoming distant memories, and
Yeah.
over time, very distant memories.
Hmm.
That's not learning.
That's not okay.
And so, what is the value in that?
Nothing. You just
Yeah.
memorize it. It's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked about just one last thing I was interested in. You talked about language. How many languages do you know? Because you stayed in Germany for 16 years, so German and
So I speak
French.
German.
Okay.
I didn't do German at school, but I learned German because it was a really, you know, I believe if you're going to live in a country, you should learn
know
the
the
language.
You have to,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're going
definitely.
to say to me, so how's my Hindi? And I'm going to say terrible
Ah,
because I
okay.
I haven't worked to learn Hindi, which I think is a shame. So I speak English, my mother tongue. I
Mhm.
speak German as a
Okay.
native speaker and can, you know,
Yeah.
work in that language and have
Okay.
done.
Hmm.
I speak rudimentary French.
Okay.
I am learning Italian because my
Oh.
home is in Italy. So
Oh.
one of the
okay.
things I will do when I retire is learn to become as near native an Italian speaker as possible.
Wow.
And you know, learning a language is also something that keeps that brain. You know,
I'm pretty sure Hindi will get to you very quick because it's just going around everywhere in Mumbai. So you're gonna get it very fast, I'm sure. So just one last thing, if you can look at the camera and give us one life advice and one message for the class of 2025 as they move into their last year. One life advice.
One life advice: be kind to people. At the end of the day, when you go home, I say this to folks often. You know, you should be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, even when I had to do difficult things, I did it with kindness. I did it with respect. You know, I kept the moral high ground. I think that that's super important.
And one message for the class of 2025 as they graduate next year. Everyone's gonna miss you a lot.
I
Yeah.
will be with you in your graduation, so I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay.
But what I would say is, you know, work to your best potential.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a really valuable period in your lives,
Hmm.
and make the best
Best use of
use
it,
you
yeah.
can of the time that you have in school. And as I have said year on year to students who are starting the IB diploma, the quality of output in your IB diploma will be a product of the relationship that you form with the adults who are teaching you. The more adult you make the relationship, the better the outcomes will be.
So it's not only academics, it's
No.
relationships with everyone.
Relationships really matter.
Perfect. Okay, sir, that would be
Thank you
it.
so
Thank
much.
you so much, sir.
Thank you,
so
gentlemen.
much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you
It was
so
a
much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Good luck with the editing.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
Sir.
Thank you.